Nancy again at Sipping and Painting Hamden. Tonight I'm going to do something special. We just recorded a Zoom class and I was thinking, I want to stay a little bit later tonight and I'm going to paint a fun little cute painting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of our larger paintings and put it on a small canvas. And then we'll make these canvases available to people who want to paint with their families. So if you have any kids in your life and you want to paint along together as a family, we'll sell you these little canvases and a kit to go with it. And let's get started. This painting is called Triple Scoop. Who doesn't love ice cream? Come on. All right, so here's our painting. This is on a 12 by 24, and I'm going to paint it on this little tiny 8 by 10. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, you know, I always have a large and medium flat. I always have a small round. These are just kind of basic brushes that everyone should probably have in their toolkit. I also have a tiny little detail brush because this painting's tiny. I have a glass of water. I have my napkins, and let's do it. All right, let's have some fun. So I'm going to put my brush in the water, and I'm just going to quickly. Oh, it's so fast with this little brush, this little canvas. Cute. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I always, in my classes, I always have, in these Zoom classes, I always have, it's Zoom and then we put it on YouTube, by the way. We have yellow, blue, and red. Those are primary colors. I have another blue over there in case I want to mix these separately. And then I have black and white. So I always have the primary colors plus black and white, and that helps me, I can mix any colors I want that way. Okay, so I'm going to take my big brush and I'm going to put one side in blue. I'm going to put the other side in white. So blue and white, blue. And I'm going to do that just because that makes it a really fast way to mix paint. And I'm just going to cover the whole canvas in this light blue. And this blue just reminds me of a bright summer day. And if it's streaky, awesome, even more fun. I'm also going to take that brush and I'm going to paint the sides. And the reason I do that is I don't need to put it in a frame that way, called a gallery wrap. Those who have been watching my videos know that I say that all the time, and it'll save you a bundle if you don't have to buy a frame for all your work. That's why I love these boxed canvases. They're on a frame rather than the flat ones, because then you can easily hang it on the wall. These are so little, you can just use a thumbtack and hang it on a thumbtack because they're so little and so light. You don't even need a fancy nail configuration. All right, so boy, was that fast. Holy cow, that was super fast. Whew, I don't think I've ever painted a background that quick. Nice. All right, now this is a little deeper in color. You can see that. So I can go back into my blue and I can deepen it up with another quick coat of that blue. Just adding a little more blue to this color. Like a swimming pool, like a summer swimming pool or a summer day. All right. And then I'm just going to let that dry. Now, acrylic paint, as you know, is permanent paint, and it dries fast. I paint with Bob Ross oil sometimes, and acrylic paint dries in about 5 minutes, and oil paint's set in about a month. And then they really cure in about a year, but you can hold them in about a month. Acrylic paint, 5 minutes later, you can touch this and take it home. So acrylic paint's really fun and easy. But it will stain your clothes, so that's the downside. All right, so I am going to clean my brush really well, and I'm going to lay that down here. And then I'm going to mix some colors. Okay, so you'll see in this painting, I've got a cone here, and the cone is brown. Now, when you're painting from primary colors, in order to make brown, a good way to remember is I like to think of it as Christmas brown. And basically what it is red and green. So I'm going to take a little bit of red I'm going to put it in the middle. Now, what is green? Green is blue and yellow together. So I'm going to pick up some yellow. I'm going to put that in the middle. I'm going to pick up some blue. So the blue and the yellow together make green, right? And the red gets all swirled in there. And what I should come up with is a brown. Crossing my fingers that when I put these three together, I'm going to get a brown. Now that's very green, and I'll tell you why it is. Because blue paint tends to have phthalo in it, and phthalo is a very serious pigment, and it tends to take over everything, so it made that green. I'm going to pick up some more red. The red pigment is not as strong as the blue, so in order to make this brown, I need to put a little more red in there. And hopefully, yep, it's getting browner. So a fun way to remember how to make brown is think of the Christmas colors, red and green together. If you mix the two Christmas colors together, you get Rudolph. All right, now that's a dark brown. I want a lighter brown because I have a cone. So there's a couple colors I could put in there and try to lighten it up. I could put a little more yellow, dot, dot, and I could put white. I did quite a big scoop of white. Let's see if I can lighten this up a bit. Anytime you want to lighten a color, you can do it by adding white. Sometimes a little yellow helps too, but it's all trial and error. All right, so now I have, it's a cool brown, which means not a lot of yellow in it. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I could add some more yellow in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that. Then I'll add yellow when I put in some stripes, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my cone first. Oh goodness, this is such a little painting. I never paint anything this little. It's so cute. There's my little cone. Just like a long skinny pizza slice, or it's a triangle, but it's not a perfect triangle. It's just a long skinny one. How cute is that? Adorable. Adorbs. All right, so I'm going to let that little baby dry, that little baby ice cream cone dry for a minute, and I'm going to pick up more yellow. And I'm just going to mix that in the side. I just want a slightly different shade of brown, so I'm going to pick up a little more yellow, and I'm just putting it in the side of just a little bit of that brown. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want the cone to have, like, just be boring, just a brown cone. I want it to have some other shades of brown in there. So by adding a little bit of yellow, I'm just making a new shade. I can add a little white too if I wanted. Maybe I'll do that next, but I just want some different shades and to put in some stripes. Okay. So I'm just setting my wrist down there. This is painting so little, and I'm just going to paint some stripes going down from the tip. You know how when you eat an ice cream cone, it has those ridges? Those are thick. I'm going to need a smaller brush to do more of those. Now, if I add a little bit of white to another part of brown, I'm going to just pick up some white, just a little bit from the side. I don't want to go directly into the middle of that white because I'm going to need it later. I just pick it up from the side. So now I'm mixing a little bit of white into that brown, into some other section of it. And that way I can use that for my stripes too, because cones have different stripes and ridges, and that's how I'm creating texture in my cone. I'm using a teeny tiny little brush now, the smallest brush you can get your hands on, because this little canvas is so little, I'm not used to painting on it. We normally paint on 16 by 20s. If I were normally painting this myself, I would do it on a flat table, probably not on an easel, because it's just so little. So next time I paint one of these, I'm going to set it up on the table. But for now, we've got our easel, and I'm just holding it up. Do you see how by having different stripes of brown, I'm getting some texture in that cone? Can you see that? And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go across sometimes, and I'll even curve down a little bit Just a little bit of a curve in there. And those are those ridges from where the cone is on the waffle iron when they cook. And it's kind of funny. We're next to a cold stone. And so I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this a little bit closer. Hold on. We're next to a cold stone. So they cook those waffle cones and it fills up our whole place and then everybody's hungry. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Sorry for the noise. Zooming in a little bit. Let's see if that helps. All right. Can you see it a little bit better now? I hope so. Like I said, this is new. Us painting on these little tiny canvases, this is brand new. All right, so you can see the texture in the cone, right? Now I need to let that dry a minute, okay? And one way you can let things dry is, let's see, I got a little spot there. But I don't want to mess it up with a different color, so this brush was the one I used originally. Let's see if I can brush that out a bit. I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, so I'm going to let this dry a bit. One way you can dry things is see how it's, when I twist it in the light, it's shiny. That means it's still wet. So one way I can do it is I can just wave it around. I could use a hair dryer. Oops. Could use a hair dryer or a fan, or I could just wave it around. And if you just wave around your paintings, if the air outside is dry, then it'll dry pretty quick. At least in Denver it does, depending on how your humidity is where you live. Now, son of a gun, I messed it up, so I gotta go in there and fix that with a little bit more blue. Don't you just hate it when you touch wet paint? But you know what? I hope this is the worst of our problems, because that's not a terrible problem. All right, good enough. It just looks like we have some texture in the background. So I'm letting this dry a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take advantage of my time and I'm going to draw in the scoops. And I'm going to use white. The reason I'm using white to draw is that I can always come, if I mess up, I can always come back in and I can re-blend the background. So that's a little trick. If I drew with black, an outline, then if I made a mistake, it'd be really hard to take it off. So the first scoop is going to be poofy. See how poofy that is? Poofy. Okay, it's a little bumpy, probably a little too much, but that's okay. And then when this is dry, I'm going to have some of that poof come down here, okay? And I can also have some drips. So let's say it's a hot day. Let's say you took your ice cream and you're going down to the swimming pool and you're sitting on the concrete watching your friends swim. And this ice cream is just dripping. It's just dripping. But you know what? Who cares? You're going to go in the pool anyway. You don't care. Okay, so that's scoop number one. Like I said, let's see. This is still a little bit too wet, probably. Oh, I think I can do it. I'm just going to put some curves in that. You see that? It hangs over because when you flatten down that scoop, it curves over the top. Now the second scoop is going to go right about here. It's going to be bumpy. And then I'm going to forget all about, oh goodness, that's a huge scoop. What was I thinking? We're going to have to make this one bigger. Holy cow, it must have been a sale day. Your best friend must work at that ice cream store, because only a best friend would give scoops that big. Now, see this part in here? We're not concerned about it. That's gone now because it just got flattened down by the next scoop. All right, I'm not going to make the next one so big. That was kind of silly. I must be thinking about ice cream. All right, the next one. Oh, this one's huge too. All right, goes right on top. And again, I'm not going to worry about this part. That's going to get painted over, and that's going to get painted over. But now I have 3 scoops. And this one is curvy at the bottom. This one is curvy at the bottom. And this one's curvy at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to let that dry a bit. And it's kind of funny, the weight of that top scoop and the middle scoop is really smashing this and causing it to drip. So that kind of makes sense, actually. All right, now to make pink, I'm going to take some white paint, take some white, and then I'm going to take some red, and I'm going to stir it around until I get pink. All right, so I'm going to put it down on the table so I can do that a little more neatly. I'm going to stir around white and red together to get pink. If you use a lot of white, you'll get a truer pink. If you use just a little white, you'll get a stronger, brighter pink. So you decide what color you want. And I am still mixing together my colors, still mixing them together. And then I can come in with a medium brush to do the middle, but you know what? I don't want to be bumpy. I don't want to mess up those lines. So I am going to switch over to a small brush in just a second, because well, I'm actually doing okay, but you probably won't. I'm used to painting, so let me switch over to the small brush, okay? Oh, this is fun. I like painting ice cream. Always wash your brushes in between. Okay, so I'm going to let that coat dry, and then I'm going to come in with a smaller brush. I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to paint my drips, because these drips on this side are that strawberry ice cream, or maybe it's bubble gum. We don't really know. It's just pink. Now, if you want to make it more strawberry or more cherry, you can put some red in there and just blend it right in with your pink, and it'll look like, you know how cherry ice cream has darker areas where the cherries are? If you want to make it more like strawberry or cherry, you can mix in a little bit more red. If you wanted a truer pink, maybe it's more like a bubble gum. You decide what color ice cream you have and what flavor. And like I said, we are right next door to a Cold Stone here at Sipping Painting Hamden. And so when we paint this painting in the summer with families, guess where they go after? 9 times out of 10. I usually see them head right on over there because they're thinking about it the whole time they're painting. I should get a kickback. All right. So we've got our strawberry on there. Isn't that cool? Cool. All right. So I'm going to let that dry a bit. And then I'm going to mix up some green. The green's going to go on top. That's mint chocolate chip. This is chocolate. I can go ahead and mix up some green. So here's my messy palette. I'm going to take a little yellow. I'm going to take some blue. I'm going to put them together. And then I'm also going to put in some white because this is a light green. Mint is a light green. And then I'm going to mix them all together. Say a little prayer maybe. Hopefully it all comes out looking minty. That's the plan. That's the plan. It's looking pretty minty. I could use a little bit more white, so I'm going to set my palette down and I'll put a little more white in there. But I think it's pretty good. I think that's a minty green. Just going to put a little more white in it so it's a little lighter. That's what I'm doing. I'm just stirring it up. Just stirring it up. Cool. All right. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to put this pretty minty ice cream right on top. Right on top. Now what I'm going to do is after I'm finished with these cute little paintings, I'm going to make a template out of it. I'm just going to copy the outline, and then I'm going to make these kits available to our customers. So you can just come right in and buy a kid's kit. And we'll have all kinds of topics, things that kids like to paint. All right, there's my mint. I have to let that dry before I put chocolate chips in it, right? Okay, now I'm gonna start on my brown, and I'm gonna have to just be careful. I'm gonna go back to that brown I used in my cone. I'm gonna take the darker brown, and I'm just gonna put it right in there. Doesn't that look like chocolate ice cream? It already does, doesn't it? And I forgot to tell you when we started this, if you don't like these flavors of ice cream, you can paint any kind. You could do a spumoni. That's like red and vanilla and green. I can't remember what kinds exactly. Or you could do, you know, you could do whatever. You could do a vanilla scoop. You could do a pistachio scoop. You could do a Oreo cookie scoop. You decide whatever you like to enjoy on your cone, whatever ice cream your favorites. That's what you ought to paint. Oh, this is so cute. I'm loving this painting. It's fun to paint this with families. And notice I'm just covering up that white outline. See that? Fun. All right, now I need some darker chocolate chips. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that brown that I had. I'm going to pick up some black, and I'm going to stir it in. And that's just going to make my brown darker, so that when I put some chips on my ice cream, you can see them. You can see them. So I'm just mixing that in with that brown that I made before. Well, I'll just mix it all in. What the heck? See what happens. All right. And I'm going to clean out that brush. I'm going to go to my tiny little detail brush. If you only have a small, just use a small, but just take your time. And then I'm just going to pop on some chips. So when you pop on your chips, make sure they're going randomly in different directions. And even though chips are usually, make sure if I touch the canvas, it's not wet. Notice how I'm holding my pinky on that canvas, and that is steadying my hand so I don't mess up. Just have to be careful where I put it. I don't want to put in anything white. But notice how some of these chips are circles and some are dashes, because chips are not a perfect circle, and you might see the top of it, you might see the side of it, you might see it. Maybe they're chips that aren't exactly uniform. So you want some circles and some dashes and maybe different sides, and maybe there'll be two next to each other, because that would be realistic, wouldn't it? Maybe some are bigger than another. And don't just put them in the middle, put a few off to the side so you know that they're everywhere in that. Yeah, there you go. Ooh, if you really like chocolate chips, you just go to town. That looks yummy and fun. You can take your little detail brush if you have one, or your small brush, and you can make some more lines in your cone just to add a little more depth. This is kind of an advanced step, and if you're painting with kids and they're tired of it, they can just be done. But if you want to just put in a few more of these lines with that darker paint that we just mixed up, it just adds a little more texture in your cone. And the more texture you have in that cone, the more realistic it's going to look, because it's not flat. Cones are very textured. And be sure to put some crossways too. Notice that curve is kind of going a little bit like a smiley face. All right, so I am really enjoying that. Now, if this is not chocolate, milk chocolate, if it's Jamocha almond fudge, or if it's some kind of fudgy chocolate, you could put in some little streaks of some ribbons of chocolate in there if you're really a chocoholic. You decide. Okay, that's totally up to you. Or you could blend them all in. Okay, now the only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few little highlights to my painting. What I mean by highlights is I'm going to pick up a little bit of white on that brush, and I'm just going to, on one side or the other of the drips and on the ice cream, I'm just going to put a little line of white. And the reason I'm doing that is because the sun's going to hit this ice cream outside, remember? Because it's a sunny day and it's outside. We know it's outside because the black background's so blue. And so I'm not going to make a solid line. I'm just going to make partial lines on this side, on the right side of my ice cream. And what that's saying is the sun is hitting it more on that side. All right. Let's see, anything else? You know, if you wanted, you could do the same thing on the other side. You can take the tiniest amount of black and just kind of make it a little darker on the other side, putting a little shadow on the other side where the sun isn't, where it's more shady. And when you just add a little bit of highlight to your paintings and a little bit of shadow, it just helps your eye know where the lights and the shadows are. And shadows tend to be on the undersides of things or on the side that doesn't have the sun hitting it. So I'm going to put more shadow on the underside. All right, I think we're done with this painting actually. This was an easy, fun little painting. I'm going to do a whole bunch more of these, so stay tuned. And yeah, let me know. We go to Sipping, www.sippingandpainting, and the N is, the N is just an N. Sippingandpaintinghamden.com, and then email me and let me know what kind of paintings would you like to see me paint on these cute little baby canvases, because I would so love to do some more of these. They're fun. Oh, you're probably wondering, what did she just do? I was just kind of experimenting and making some little piles of my ice cream with the highlights. If you don't like that, you can just go back in with your green and cover them up. I was experimenting. I always do that. I have a perfectly good painting and then I mess it up by experimenting, but that is the lesson here. If you're happy with your painting, if you're 80% happy with your painting, it's probably best to just walk away and let it be, because you don't want to mess it up. But it turned out okay. All right, so there's my painting. I am just going to sign my initials in the little corner. I'm going to stick this on the sale table like everything else. We have a ton of paintings there, and we're practically giving them away. They're so cheap. So if you live near our studio, come on over and buy some original art. All right, so that's my triple scoop ice cream cone. Oh, one more thing. There is a drip of chocolate in the strawberry. How cute is that? How silly. I don't know why. When I painted the original big one, I don't know why I put drips in the strawberry, but that's kind of fun. All right, and I have another one way over here. That chocolate is really melting, isn't it? So again, highlight on one side, shadow on the other, and the shadow is the black. So now I need a little bit of white on just the highlight side. And boom. Boom, I think we're done here, folks. All right, I hope you enjoyed painting with me today. Thank you so much for joining me as we painted triple scoop, and join me the next time we paint on a little tiny canvas. Take care, good night.